Right. Shall we get started with that?
Yes, I'm just seeing that the numbers are still rising, so maybe a couple of seconds. It's great to see that many people are interested, so we are holding at 34 now. Okay, yeah, let's get started.
So welcome everybody to our session, to our inspirational session. My name is Beatrix Wepner, and together with my colleague Petra Wagner, we are happy to give you an insight of what we did or what we're doing at the Austrian Institute of Technology. Our session is on co-designing impact pathways. And we heard a lot in the keynote speech and also in the discussion that we need to consider a lot of factors. There's a lot of things and demands and coming up, like the Sustainable Development Goals. If you think about the food, you have to think about the whole food system, think about sustainability, think about integrating society, research and policy. And all that to really bring us to a sustainable food system. And often we find that it's very difficult where to start and where to bring all the loose ends together. So with our method, we hope to give you an idea of how it could be possible to really start co-designing pathways together with variety of stakeholders addressing and considering a variety of topics and issues. And I can click. So we are from the Austrian Institute of Technology. We are mostly situated in Vienna, but we've got research facilities distributed throughout Austria. In total, the AIT has got 1,400 employees, and we address a variety of different topics, starting from energy, digital safety and security, low emission transport, technology experience, dealing with interactions of consumers with machines, etc., vision and automation control. And Petra and myself, we are from the Innovation Systems and Policy Center. We're one of the smallest centers, but we think one of the most exciting centers because we deal with topics like policy labs. So Petra, I give over to you.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Beatrix. Yes, as you said, we are dealing with policies, and we're also dealing with innovation systems and as such systems transformation. And as you have seen in this morning already in the keynote, transformation is it's a long-lasting process. So we're not talking years; we are almost talking decades. So and this transformation actually goes along different phases, and starting with a regime that is currently established. And to get and either or both through the pressures that are actually coming from outside the system, or also innovative niches that are actually coming up from within the system. The idea is then of transitioning and actually accelerating these niches such that they actually interact with the current regime and hopefully make it more sustainable, and thus change it and stabilize a new system. So that's kind of the idea of system transformation, and the pathways would actually be how we can actually come from different directions together to really affect the change that will come to this new normal then. And impact pathways are really important and quite abundantly actually both at the level of in Europe, but also in many member state countries, and the policymakers are actually thinking about those impact pathways. And with this approach that we developed and adapted, really, what we can do is that we can really support those policy makers or even policy entrepreneurs, as you might call it, at various levels of decision making, and to interact with multiple stakeholders that are actually necessary to affect the system's change. And it's, as Beatrix also said, really important at this initial phase, so how to start up this process. And in policy terms, this is really called the opening kind of this agenda setting phase. And we mostly did that in food-related R&I policy domains, also in relation to health. And we will show you an example in a minute. But we also see, because it's also coming from other policy realms, that it works in others. So that's why we think it's quite robust. And it's really supporting policymakers in doing policy innovation. So that's kind of the benefit also for the policymakers themselves. For all those who actually participate in this process, what it really does, it shows all the different challenges and barriers that are actually involved in the system's change in a quite systematic fashion. But it also shows the options that are available by actually bringing different solutions in, and it really shows us how they can also contribute with others, so that there will be co-benefits. And and what is, I think, also important is it shows the different perspectives that people bring in. So it's not only about solutions, it's also about different perspectives that are associated with those solutions. So to make it a little bit more concrete, so it's really about opening this black box, as I said, and impact pathways really are a great way to describe the logic of how some change and also the impacts that are to be achieved are described more in detail. And as I already said, it's really about also the assumptions that are associated with these activities and how they can actually contribute together in achieving those goals. And what it does, in fact, is really it's developing a picture of potential impacts that can happen on people, planet, or on prosperity. And it's actually a theory of change, if you will, that is based on shared visions and goals. And if it adds value, if we talk to the people who we are actually working with, they say it's really a good way to deal with complexity. It's not reducing the complexity because it is complex. You cannot reduce it sensibly, but it reduces uncertainty, which is a good first step. It can also be used as a framework for planning and monitoring, even for assessment. So it's multidimensional in that respect, and it can also help better integrate results. So it can, for instance, be linked to impact narratives and thus become a quite powerful tool in communicating complex systems change. And here are just two examples of how impact pathways can actually look like. The first example on the top is taken from the project Fit for Food 2030, where we worked with policy labs, so policy makers from different countries and regions across Europe to develop impact pathways for their R&I policies. So you can see it's like really hands-on, it's very qualitative, it's different stakeholders came together, and it can also be very sort of easy in terms of just maybe a pen and paper. On the bottom, you can see another take. This is actually an example from construction from the energy sector. So it can be very systematic, very detailed as well. So you actually see there's a whole range of different ways to work with impact pathways. And for a very concrete example, I'm handing over to Beatrix.
Thank you. So what we worked on with the Ministry for Health and some other bits, so it's got a really long name. I won't bother you with that. They have got what they call health targets, and the overall health target is they have set is making healthy nutrition with high quality food accessible to all. So this is a very broad topic, and it was being difficult for them to really get concrete measures, how to start, where to start, who is doing what. So we developed with them, we designed with them the process to really get to a pathway to reach the impact target, and linking food and health together was one of the clear goals that they wanted to achieve. So they wanted to have clearer orientation and a step-by-step approach to target the achievements, and also to show contributions and show possible synergies. During the discussions, we've also focused on initial points. What are concrete measures and actors that are needed? How about networking? How about the synergies, the collaboration, and working together? How do they build on each other? And also what Petra also said, it was very important to discuss the assumptions that are behind all these measures. Why are we doing this? And through this pathway exercise and through this workshop that unfortunately we had to do online, it became very clear and more obvious. So the questions that we answered or we tried to answer in this workshop was, what do we want to achieve? What are the goals? What activities do we need for this? Who needs to do this? Who needs to join us probably on this path? Who are the stakeholders? And what needs to be considered? And as I said, during the discussions, we also could discuss why. Why is it important to take these steps? We developed an online workspace, but in theory, it also would work if we can see each other in a normal workshop. So on one side, we had defined a clear goal or a more precise goal within this huge, big health target. And on the other side, the participants could take measures on different, let's say, categories. We had measures that were dealing with research and innovation, measures considering finances, education, for example, infrastructure, and also one card that said other measures, so anything else that came to our mind. And we had also defined different stakeholder groups, starting from ministries to food industry, citizens, schools, education, and stakeholders like that. And also we had defined, you can see at the bottom, actions, and actions could be an exclamation mark, for example, depicts attention, please pay attention, there's something we have to consider in more detail. A question mark is we need more research on this, but also the actions defined co-benefits and benefits to other measures, to other goals probably. The outcome could look like this. I mean, as you can see, there's already a lot in all these measures. There's very tiny little pictures of which actors are in there, what measures, what actions. The colors depict what type of measures these are, and it's running along. And what was very clear in the outcome was how all these measures are connected together, how they build on each other, and it was very easily possible to cluster them and to sort of pack them in overall topics and clusters of measures, while still having the interlinkages in between all these clusters. So Petra, I think I'll hand over to you again.
Okay. Maybe just a remark or still information. We did this actually within the course of one day. So effectively, I think it was 4 or 5 hours and 35 people. So, and we even did sort of 3 different sub goals. So it was a very sort of efficient way actually to come up with this.
And perhaps another addition to that, the stakeholders involved were also it was a very broad selection from ministries to Chamber of Agriculture, Commerce. We had 3 different ministries. We had dietologists, we had representatives from the food industry, Nutrition Council, consumer protection. So there was really a broad range of stakeholders engaged in this process.
So with that, we kind of come already to our conclusions. So that because we're working more in the field of R&I policy, we think that this is, from experience, really a fresh approach that was really highly welcomed by the R&I policymakers that we were working with. I think it's added value, and I think that what it makes it also different from classical road mapping or other instruments, that it is really very reflexive and participatory in that respect. And when we talk about transformation, we believe that, and I think we also heard it this morning, that also the principles of responsibility have to be really taken serious in that respect, which means inclusion, which means transparency in who is involved and how they are involved, and also accountability. So what is being done with these results? And so what we showed today, just a glimpse, really is embedded actually in these principles and how it was actually designed, and what we believe and what we are already only in the starting phase, but it really should be interwoven that at all other stages of the policy cycle and in this new policy framework that is being developed, at least here in the case that we had in Austria. If you're interested in further details, there's actually a workshop a document available at the Fit for Food Knowledge Hub, where we also give some more concrete suggestions on how a workshop can actually be accommodated. And it works. I'm trying actually to post the link there if you're interested. And last but not least, we hope or believe that this is an instrument that can be also applied in very different contexts, starting really from very, very broad visions of how to actually take SDGs as a starting point, or a combination of SDGs as a starting point. This is really an actionable first step in tackling these broader topics, and it works really well in terms of bringing a diverse set of stakeholders into a process that is really future-oriented and also is linked with decision-making. It can really support empowering communities. We had examples where really new strategies and new alliances were forged during the process. And it really works well when you also work across different levels of agency and not only scale, where you also have sort of new behaviors and perceptions by the stakeholders, even if it's only during the course of a workshop and the aftermath. So we had really people coming back to us and talking that, these stakeholders now behaved in different ways, and it was much more effective. And sometimes even new roles and rules emerge out of these processes. And what it also can do is really work across the different sectors and policy domains. That's also possible. And last but not least, it's something that is also very important in change. It really supports leadership. Yeah, so it's really also encouraging that as well, and so it brings new capacities and as I said, also these new perceptions and really actionable knowledge for systems change. And with that, I think we say thank you from the both of us for listening to us. And with that, we would like to open the floor to you. We have a couple of minutes left for comments, questions. Feel free to post them or raise your hand. We're happy to.
There was one question on if you can give concrete examples on goals that pathways were built for in practice.
Mm-hmm. Very, very happy to do that. So the very concrete example that Beatrix really gave, this was really a live example that we did here in Austria with the different sort of for the health ministry together with the I think it was the agricultural ministry that overall Austrian health goal. So that was really an actual example. And we also did support several ministries in the course of the Fit for Food project, where they really tried to raise awareness and align the policy priorities around food R&I in many countries, such as Italy, Ireland, Hungary, Estonia, also regions like Flanders. So if you're interested in that, there's also examples at the Fit for Food 2030 homepage.
So in Austria, one of the sub goals really was to have healthy nutrition in public sort of public places, and it's a bit difficult for me now to translate. Like in schools, in canteens, etc., to really bring healthy, sustainable, local, regional food into the kitchens of the canteens in various public and non-public places, and really to bring that into the heads. And they had all sorts of measures there, from education of personnel to education of teachers to anything you can think about in between, as a very concrete example. And they had a concrete number of how many percentages they wanted to have of regional food, and what how many vegetables, etc., they wanted to have in that.
In Hungary, for instance, they worked on the goal of reducing food waste and used this approach, and they worked more on different sort of governance levels within Hungary, and particularly also to bring in industry and bring them on board in supporting the goal of reducing food waste in Hungary. That was another example. We have, I think, about 1 minute left for more questions or comments. I don't know, maybe some of you have already worked with impact pathways yourselves. Do you have any experiences yourselves in working with such an approach or tool?
From also perhaps from the Austrian ministry, they sliced up the big goal into smaller goals, to really being able to tackle them. That was an important first step, but they never left the overall goal out of sight. And but I think there's 5 minutes that we're supposed to have to switch to different rooms. I think both Petra and me are very happy to answer any questions. Was another question popping up somewhere?
No, if there's no more questions, then I would say thank you very much for attending this session, and hopefully see you during the conference. Oh, there's one more? Okay, thank you. Well, thank you. Okay. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks a lot.
Chrissy is here.